This episode brought to you by Big Sky Oktoberfest, celebrating its third year at Big Sky Town Center September 26th through the 28th, bringing the tradition of Germany to the mountains. Grab a brat and get your oompa on. Purchase tickets and see the full lineup at BigSkyOktoberfest.com. Here in front of the Yellow House Barbecue at 609 West Mendenhall Street in Bozeman. This is a working barbecue restaurant owned and operated by pitmaster Austin Brown here, who's a Texas boy. He's been doing this for 3 years. Thank you so much for
stoked to be here,
hosting us and letting us do this. How did this all happen? When did you get your pitmaster's degree?
Well, we started doing this here, like you said, about 3 years ago. I just started kind of doing it on the side. We did little pop-ups, and it just, we don't market online. I do stuff on Instagram, which is just an open sign in the window. It kind of grew into what it is. I'm mainly a private chef. I fly over the world with private clients. I cook for a lot of celebrities and musicians and things like that. This building actually used to be called the Bozeman Supper Club. I would do these ticketed tasting menu dinners here. We still do sometimes, but not as often. And I actually bought the pit to expand the catering company. I thought, a lot of what I started doing here is I'd go out to private ranches and, no running water and electricity, and we do these 5-course tasting menus. Again, we still do them, but with the element of fire. 10 years ago, no one's really doing things over fire here. No natural wood actually grows here that's great for cooking over. It's pine, cottonwood, alder, spruce, all real astringent, acidic woods that you got to burn down to coal to really cook with them. If you imagine sticking a steak inside of your wood burning stove, it tastes like a pine tree with tar and creosote.
Why is the post oak superior?
That's just what we use. I think the most popular cooking wood in the world is probably hickory, but in Texas, the central Texas barbecue flavor all stems from post oak. It's what we have there. It grows in abundance. It's everywhere.
But everybody probably thinks mesquite is the best wood.
So I get a lot of this, and a lot of people ask me, do you smoke over mesquite? The only people that actually smoke over mesquite that I know of are from California. And they're cooking a tri-tip or doing whatever they do with mesquite. But we don't. It's actually a kind of an astringent wood. I'll grill steaks over it over real high heat. It does grow everywhere. But as far as 12 to 16 hours of smoke, it makes things bitter, I think. So most people in Texas would never say they smoked with mesquite. It's so weird. I get it all the time. But yeah, oak it's just a denser wood. It's got a really mild flavor. When you got to think about it, from start to finish, at 12 to 16 hours to cook a brisket, or even pork shoulder takes just as long. If you have a wood that's got a real sharp or prominent flavor, it just builds on it, and eventually becomes inedible. So the light kind of mild flavor of the oak
when meat is going to sit on there for 12 to 16 hours,
it coats it right. You only have 2 to 3 hours to actually get the smoke into the brisket. Think of it as your arm muscle, right? When it's relaxed, those muscles are loose and things can be absorbed, but as you cook it, it starts to tighten and push water out. So you get the most flavor of the smoke in the first 2 to 4 hours. And then after that, it's that smoke's just washing over it. That's why, if you ever see a smoker with big, thick white plumes coming out of it, you probably don't want to eat barbecue there, because they're just coating it and just thick smoke flavor.
Like soot, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. It's almost things like that to me are just not real palatable.
So at a certain point, you're just trying to get it to temperature, but
Absolutely.
very, very slowly.
Yes. So that's what the oak's good for. You get the flavor of the wood, but it burns down to these long-lasting coals. The bed of coals that are in that offset smoker would actually cook it to temperature, not really the fire. So the fire, you have more fire actually at a lower temperature in the smoker. So what that fire creates the smoke, but when you get down to the coals, you have more of it, an even cooking temperature.
Yeah. And your specialty is the brisket.
Brisket is king in Texas. It's the hardest thing to cook. It's what people have most trouble learning. That's why a lot of barbecue joints, if they can stick to pork, not that pork's easy to cook as well, or easier to cook. It's that beef is just, there's just a lot more effort that goes in, a lot more pain. You can mess it up really easy. You can overcook it. It takes a lot.
All right, and walk me through your process when you're putting brisket on there. How long is it going to stay? What's your sleep schedule like when it's on?
Oh man, so we've gotten it dialed. I used to stay up all night for days on end doing this because I wouldn't let anybody else touch the smoker. I've gotten a little bit better. I've got one guy that I've trained and another guy that I'm training that I'll let do parts of it. But we break it down into shifts. So there's the start shift and the finish shift, and we kind of combine. I guess 3 and a middle shift. We start at 5 a.m. All the briskets are bought the night before or the day before, and we trim them, so they're all fresh, all Montana beef. It comes from Ranchland Beef Company in Butte. It's like an amalgamation or conglomeration of a bunch of ranchers that all sell Angus beef here in Montana. It's actually harder to get, which is really surprising because A, it's wildly expensive, and B, just not a lot of people processing brisket. You know, most of it goes into the grind for a lot of these guys around here. So, like getting good quality briskets at a fair price has been a really difficult challenge. But I've been buying meat. His name's Rick Wyinski. He owns Montana Wagyu Cattle Company. But I've been buying the same meat from him for probably 10 years now. I'm pretty loyal to him, so I can keep consistent quality and product. But
and then getting it trimmed is a challenge.
Yeah, so we trim it all. We take the fat off. We trim the beef down, or it's like each brisket I get's about 15 to 18 pounds. We trim them down to about 11 to 13 pounds. By the time we're done smoking, we've got about 5 to 8 pounds that we can actually sell. So we take all that trim and we grind it up and we use it in, our sausage and our patty melts and things like that. But they go on at 5 a.m. and they cook for anywhere from 12 to 16 hours depending upon how cold it is outside. So someone's up here at 5 a.m. It's usually me. I like the early shifts. Then we have a guy that watches them through the middle, and then I like to come back for the end to pull them off. Once they get to we could go deep into that, but basically, we do what's called a rolling smoke. They start at a lower temperature, and then every once in a while we increase the temperature, and then we wrap once they get through what's called the stall. That's usually around 180 degrees. And once they're wrapped, when we pull,
wrap them in.
We wrap them in peach butcher paper, which is a real traditional Texas thing. So we'll use foil. I think the foil steams the meat. The paper allows it to kind of breathe.
Yeah.
So you don't get that kind of like pulled beef texture, which is, some people like it, and a lot of places do it, which is just kind of not the style that we follow.
You want it to slice.
I want it to slice, and I want it to very gently pull apart and hold it under its own weight, but I don't want it to shred. But yeah, once they hit about 180 degrees, we wrap them, and then at 200 degrees, we know they're edible at 200 degrees. The collagen is broken down into gelatin. That happens around 200 degrees.
Okay. But
then you just start squeezing those things. And you really can't. You can stick a thermometer in as much as you want, but until you feel it start to give underneath your fingertips, you really have no idea that it's done. So it just comes with, repetition.
Yeah.
I've probably, like I said, thousands and thousands of pounds of brisket. Once you learn to cook 1 to 200, you can get it done. You can get it done right. But after that, it's all feel.
But doesn't the Montana variation in temperature throw some curveballs at you?
A little bit. So that's why in Central Texas, they mainly burn post oak, which is a real dense wood, real mild flavor. But it doesn't give off as much heat as a lighter, less dense wood. So I also supplement pecan. So when it's colder out here and I see temperature fluctuations, I can throw a little pecan in with that, and it'll help raise my temperature and keep it more stable.
Okay.
I don't really do it so much. The flavor's excellent, but really more so just to maintain my fire.
Are you smoking through the winter when it gets down to the negative temperatures?
So the coldest we've ever done was negative 42 years ago. And I just did that to prove it to myself, man. We did it and we sold out that day. It was pretty wild, but I was pretty, and I put on Instagram coldest smoke ever, and I had 300 people tell me how wrong I was and that they had done it better, and which is whatever. But I was pretty proud of it. Yeah.
What did it take? Did you just take way more wood?
It takes way more wood. And you have to increase the ambient. So once that metal gets hot, it does insulate pretty well, but it starts to exude its heat. As soon as it hits the cold air, the cold pulls the heat out of it.
Yeah.
So actually, when I first started doing this, I had a 20 by 20 military modular tent out here that I did it in, and almost asphyxiated myself 3 or 4 times. Because you have to. That smoker. So actually, that's why we built this shack. In the winter, it rolls in there, and we put a big thick piece of canvas over the outside, or there's an open wall on this side, and it'll increase the ambient temperature of the inside of that shack by 30 to 40 degrees.
Wow.
But doing it out here, I tried wrapping it in welding blankets and got fiberglass in my finger. I tried all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
But mainly that was just to prove that I could do it. And the tent was a bad idea. We had to get rid of that thing. But we got through a winter, but we've never really been open consistently enough. This winter we're going to try. I'm actually, like I said, it's been a side business and kind of a pop-up thing up until now. And finding good people to work with and things like that have been hard. So I'm building a team now that I kind of trust, and we're gonna try this winter. To have some regular hours.
It might kill you, but what a way to go.
But pain begat beauty. You have to for good barbecue. That's why Traeger's things are good, but it's not great. You have to suffer a little bit for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to blood, sweat, and tears go into it to really to get that smoke ringer, to get it perfect, to get that flavor.
Yeah, I do it on a little Weber, little Smoky Mountain.
Dude, that's the best grill on the market.
I love it. I'm on my second one.
Oh yeah.
And I like that I have to babysit it so much.
100%. It's a good excuse to drink beer midday too, or really early in the morning.
I don't want to see it on my phone. I don't want that.
No, it's different, and that's my dad. I got a love for grilling and stuff like that from my dad, and you used to be able to get those Weber kettles, the 22-inch ones is the one we use, but
yeah,
for $80. But you can offset smoke. You can, not necessarily offset, but you can indirect cook, convect. they're, for the money, I think they're the best grills you could possibly buy.
I totally agree. For the people who are not from the South and don't understand barbecue, give a little bit of a love song. Why is it special?
I guess First and foremost, Texas style barbecue is all about beef. You know, you go to a lot of places, you see a ton of pork. You know, I didn't really do a whole lot of pork, but up here we've got it's a a melting pot in Montana. People like different things, right? But the Texas thing is it's mainly beef. Even our sausage is beef. We do a beef sausage here. And I guess the fundamental ideology behind of it all is the meat should be so good that it doesn't need a sauce.
Okay.
But I always tell people, like, there's not a sauce I wouldn't kick out of bed, right? Like, sauce is great, but it should be standalone good. The fewer ingredients, but I mean, the real magic happens in managing the fire, keeping your smoke right, and getting that right amount of smoke to salt and pepper ratio. Like, a lot of the pitmasters will tell you, like, all I use is coarse ground salt and sea salt, or coarse ground pepper and sea salt.
Yeah.
That's a farce. Like, everybody puts a little garlic or something in it. I mean, I've got a couple little things I put in there, but primarily it's 50-50 coarse 14 mesh, coarse ground black pepper and sea salt.
Okay, that's your rub.
That's the building blocks. I add a couple things. I can't go too far into that one, but really not much more than that.
Okay.
Of course, I put a little granulated garlic in there because who doesn't like granulated garlic? It's
not going to hurt things.
And then a couple other small things. But yeah.
But the real secret is
it's all in the smoke.
It's
how you cook it.
It's smoking it for a very long time.
Oh yeah, I'd say suffering for it and really taking your time.
Okay.
There's just little nuances, and a lot of it's in fire control and management, but that's where it comes from.
And talk about the smoker a little bit.
Yeah. So I've got family from Lockhart, Texas. It's the mecca of barbecue, right? It's where the first restaurant ever to sell sliced brisket, or at least recorded, was in Lockhart. It was Black's Barbecue on the downtown square. My great-grandfather was sheriff of that town forever. Our wood comes from there. I ship it all up from Central Texas, but the smoker was built by Mill Scale Metalworks. They're basically like the coup de grace of the smoker building industry, which is actually there's like all these people that branched up, but they just make a really, really quality smoker, and I always wanted one. I've got a metalworker in town that has built me a few smaller things back before the business got big enough that we could afford that one. That's about a $40,000 rig over there. It's all 1/4-inch rolled steel, big heavy doors with counterweights, a folding smokestack, double-walled insulated firebox. It's got actually a fire table on the other side of it on hinge pins that folds down, so we can, if you see that setup over there, so you can see all that stuff will actually transition onto it, so you can actually have a live fire going and doing things like to order at the same time.
Okay, and are you doing most of this here out back now, or are you also bringing that to events?
That lives here now. We'll take it to an event, but seldomly. I've got other smokers and things like that we take that are a little more transportable.
Yeah.
We're getting to the point where I need another one or a bigger one. Funny, a friend of mine he's a blacksmith here in town. We found this old, it's more than 1,000 gallons. It's massive. It's an old steam pressure tank with like conical rivets on it that we found in Rock Creek. We found it in Rock Creek.
Okay.
We dug it out of the dirt, and he's going to turn that into my next smoker. He's a pretty famous knife maker. His name's Will Stelter. Rad dude.
Okay.
We've had that project on the back burner for a year, so we'll see how fast it gets built.
And what's the capacity of that? How many briskets can you put on? Or are you doing all different meats on there?
So we have a smoke schedule because we do plenty of different meats, and some things smoke faster than others. But if I was to fill it up with briskets, I could do about 25 briskets at one time.
That's a lot.
Yeah, we usually on the weekends. Again, weekend we'll go through 20 to 30.
You ever screw up a brisket?
Oh man, so many. First when I started, we entered the Montana Pitmaster Classic like 2 or 3 years ago. And I stopped doing it. I thought I was just gonna roll in there and like clean up, but definitely didn't. One of the guys fell asleep and like they didn't get cooked, and it was we threw more of a party. I had this trailer out there. We had live music, kegs. I cooked the whole pig. We got last place actually in brisket.
Oh no!
Well, dude, those guys that go out there, it's a whole different world of barbecue. What they do it's incredible, but everything's got to be packed down into one like flavorful bite, and no one's using big offset smokers. They're all cooking over these drums, and like they're just doing it a way that I'd never done it before, and I definitely got schooled. It was bad. It's pretty embarrassing. Actually, I have the
inedible was your food.
Oh yeah,
inedible?
Well the brisket, I was able to finish it, but it wasn't very good. We have a last place, like my scorecard from the judges, it's hanging on the wall in there. I was going to make it into a T-shirt, but
that's awesome.
I never got around into it.
That one needed sauce.
Oh yeah, that one definitely needed sauce. I'm gonna learn to cook barbecue that way and re-enter one day, but until then, I'm staying away.
Okay. Are you a fat side up or a fat side down guy?
Well, fat's flavor, right? So we cook on an offset, so it comes in from the firebox and kind of circulates and convects inside of there. So I keep the fat on top. if I had a reverse flow, or it just depends on the kind of smoke you're using. But for that one, fat side up, because the fat will drip down into the
You want it to render
Yeah.
and drip over the meat.
Oh, yeah.
Keep it tender.
Absolutely.
What has surprised you about the folks here in Montana in terms of what they will eat, what they won't eat?
It's just a lot of varied palates. We call them unicorns if you're actually from Montana. There's not a whole lot of people
Sure.
in Bozeman that are actually from here.
Yeah.
So people coming from all over, barbecue's hard, right? When you're making barbecue, everybody can like close their eyes and think of the best barbecue they ever had. So they're all, it's like any restaurant that does like familiar food, like Italian restaurants. You know what your mom's lasagna tastes like, and every time you go into one, you want to have your mom's lasagna. So trying to please everybody, we just kind of gave up on it. Started really just to make it what we want, because everybody is so varied. You just got to find that kind of happy middle ground. I mean, how I cook briskets here aren't exactly how I do it in Texas or how they do it in Texas, but I mean.
But you keep it very traditional.
Oh yeah, the methods in which you use, the rubs, it's coarse
And the
ground
way
black
you
pepper and
serve
salt.
it.
Oh yeah, try to butcher paper. Every joint, like the old school joints, all had they give you free on the plate like a bunch of white bread, homemade pickles and white onions. We try to do that the same, but as far as like flavor goes, we just try to keep it pretty neutral. I mean,
You're not putting huckleberry on everything?
No, honestly, I'm kind of huckleberried out. I mean, it's good. I love a good huckleberry jam. I like to go pick them. I think it's fun, but it's just a lot of huckleberries.
Yeah. What kind of, tell me which Texas barbecue place you compare yourself to.
Oh man, that's hard. I always go back to like where I first started eating barbecue, which was Lockhart. So
We'll wait for that guy.
yeah, dude,
Pretty cool.
I know that guy's
Pretty
awesome.
cool.
That guy's real.
Lockhart?
Yeah, so Lockhart, like we talked about a second ago, it's
Yeah.
the Mecca. I mean, it's where people go. It's where they throw all the big barbecue festivals. And there's two places there that I try to get. They use these old pits that are actually square with fires on the ground
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it's not, I mean, they're offsets, but it's like the very first form of an offset. But their flavor, it's
Like a little cinder block structure?
they're made out of bricks. Like,
Bricks,
like
okay.
there's this one called Smitty's, and you can go through the whole. It used to be called Kreitz's, and the family split up. And Kreitz's has his own place now, and the daughter got the building, and it's called Smitty's. But they're all cooking the same kind of barbecue. But the flavor, I mean, you taste the oak, you taste the salt and pepper, and it's so good that you don't need a sauce, right? But like you said, like, who's ever kicked a sauce out of bed? Sauce is great, but you want the meat to stand alone, be good, and that's when I close my eyes. That's the flavor I'm looking for. It was, I mean, like at Smitty's, or which used to be Kreitz's Meat Market, they can actually trace that building. They say that there's another one in Texas that's the oldest, but they can actually trace that building back to when it was originally a meat market. It is the oldest standing building that serves barbecue in Texas. But like everybody walks in the back door. Like there's a front door, but you always go into the back, and that's into the pit room where they have that, the butcher blocks, and they're cutting it to order, and they're weighing it right in front of you. It's all served. Barbecue in Texas is, unless you're going to like one of the newer places, it's all served deli style, right, by the pound, and you watch them cut it, and that's the song and dance of it. Like, it's as much about the food as it is about the experience, and that's kind of like, why I like having this old, I call it my pirate ship, man. Like, there's just really no place left in Bozeman that's kind of like this.
Well, the Yellow House is a very old house.
Yeah,
built in the late 1800s. It's got its own history.
Oh man, it's been, a pot shop, a bakery.
It was an Indian buffet.
It was
for a while.
Merch Masala. I was the chef at Saffron Table here in town.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah,
I
was
didn't know that.
I was the chef there when I found this house. Like, it sat empty for like 2 years. I think their kid was sick and they had to move to Billings or somewhere else to be closer to the doctors, which is sad. But oh yeah, man, I got the building. I walked in, like, the refrigerator, it was bad. It smelled like Indian food for months.
Sure. Curry's a very strong scent and flavor.
It is, especially like when it's been sitting in a fridge that hadn't been opened in 2 years.
Oh no! All right.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's like the house is 100 years old. It's got a kitchen that's been grandfathered through a bunch of laws in town. If I was actually going to try to expand the kitchen, and they told me if I took the vent hood down, I'd have to rip the whole wall out of the house and put in metal wall studs. So it is what it is. Like, it can't get any bigger.
Yep.
And
You're stuck with it.
Yeah, and but it's special. I mean, like, there's just there's all these new restaurants, things open up here with brick walls and iron beams, and these beautiful buildings with serving great food from chefs from all over. This just, I don't know, I feel at home here.
This fits you.
Yeah, it fits the barbecue thing. Like,
yeah,
if I had this in the first floor of some new development with a big neon sign that said Yellow House Barbecue, and my camper that serves as my guest house wasn't in the backyard, I just don't. It wouldn't be the same.
What are your hours now? Do you have hours?
A lot of people make fun of me for this one because I know it's not very consistent, which I take private clients still, so I travel a lot for my other.
This is not your full-time gig yet.
No, I fly all over the world as a private chef.
Okay.
And that's what I do. And that's what pays the bills right now. This thing does quite well. we make money when we're open, but then when you're closed for 4 weeks after you're open one day, it's kind of hard to stay in the black. It goes red real quick. But
the best way is to follow on Instagram.
Follow on Instagram. I had a website that I just took down, but I've recently hired someone that's helped me with like social media and all that. It's not really my jam. I'm just, like I said, I'm just a cook. Call me a pitmaster or a chef, but I cook, and that's kind of like what I'm trying to focus on. So now, to expand the business, I've taken on some people that are going to kind of help me, like actually have a business. But Thursday, so I kind of split it up. Like it's the Texas-style traditional barbecue on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. We're trying to keep going steak night on Sundays as well. But Thursdays and Fridays, we open up. And we do the things like the patty melts. We do this kind of using some of the Japanese influence I have in my cooking history, doing like barbecue rice and just some kind of funner things. I've done shawarma. I've done all kinds of stuff. It's just funner, more approachable food that everyone can enjoy. It's a little bit cheaper than coming in and buying a pound of brisket on the weekends. I figured, I was, as a private chef, I was like having a beer at the Cat's Paw one time, and some guy was like, "Oh, it's really cool that you fly all over and you do all this food for all these people." But he's like, "I'll never eat that. I can never afford it." And it's always just kind of resonated. So we try to keep the things like the patty melt and stuff like that, like stuff that everybody can probably afford. Not that I'm trying to price myself out.
Yeah.
Brisket per pound is more expensive for me to buy in the state of Montana than anywhere else in the lower 48. You can go. I pay $7.50 a pound, and if you really wanted me to break that down and cut this out, if you want, I buy briskets that are 15 to 18 pounds at $7.50 a pound. I'm paying like close to $200 a brisket. At the $40 a pound I sell it at, when I have 5 to 8 usable pounds, I sell a brisket for $50. I mean, profit. I sell it for about $2.50. So we don't make a bunch of money selling the brisket, but it's what brings people in. When we do the things like the patty melt to make things that someone can come grab for lunch, or it's more accessible, that's actually when we make our money back. By
margins are better there.
Well, no, it's not. It's just when I sell the ground beef that we trim into our own stuff, instead of going out and buying ground beef, we're actually able to like make a little bit of money.
Yeah.
But like the sides, that's not saying we're not. It's just, it's pretty funny that the thing we sell the most of is actually the thing that I break even on. It's wild.
But you also love doing it.
Yeah, and that's part of it. That's why we're not open all the time, because I don't let anybody else touch the pit, except, like I said, I'm training a couple people, which takes time and a whole bunch of money, because you can't just go out there and get it. I mean, there's nuances that you have to learn, and the only way you can learn that is by fucking a lot of things up and doing it a whole bunch. There's no other way. So I've just been slow to let that go. But the idea moving forward is that that's what I get to focus on, and I've got other people doing the other things that are not so great. I'm good at talking and cooking, man. That's really about it.
What's your expansion plan for when
and
you're ready to make this your full-time go?
My goal is actually, I'd love to have one in Manhattan, and I'd love to have one in Livingston, but I want to build a commissary kitchen so I can still, the food is the most important part for me. Like, if you're not serving good food, it doesn't matter how cool the building is or how fun the people are, like, the food has to be good. So if I have a commissary kitchen where I can do all the food out of it and then send it to those locations, it's like I almost built one in the Bonton Flour Mill building, but the building just wasn't what we needed it to be to do that. But I think once I do that, and I can have control over the food, and I know the food's consistent, and I can have a couple different locations, that's what I'm shooting for. But I guess short-term goal would just be to stay open 4 days a week, and that's what we're trying to do. I used to own a little chunk of a bar just outside of town, and I just got out of that, and then I'm slowly my private chef business. When I started being a private chef in this town 10 years ago, there was like 8 of us that did it. And now if you Google private chef, there's like 7. There's so many people.
Yeah.
So I take regular clients and referrals really only on that side. I'm trying to step away from it as much as I can just to focus on this, because this is where my heart is at these days. Like, I get to have fun. We don't have a website. Like, everybody that comes in knows us. It's just like, I don't want to call it a cult, but it's like almost this cult following of people that come here, and they're always amazing. Like, we've never had a bad customer, which is like wild to say. Everyone's in like a great mood. They know what to expect. It's been pretty great. So that's been part of my like hesitation too. Like, if I start pushing it and marketing it, and there's websites and paid for ads, like, I don't know. I really, it feels like one of the last little real community spots in Bozeman. And I didn't intend. The only reason we don't have a sign is because the city fought me on putting one up because it's close to a traffic light, and I just hung an open sign. I did not intentionally do what this became. It's just become that way.
It has all grown organically.
It's special. How
are you going to recreate this when you build future yellow houses?
I mean,
they all have to be
I know,
exactly
right?
This layout.
Yeah, in the middle, like, dude, I mean, even this area of town, like, there's like 3, 10, 5, whatever story buildings are going up. They call this Midtown now. I don't know. It might not last forever. I mean, I would close it down before I would sacrifice the quality of the food. I'm fortunate enough to have and blessed to have that opportunity. I could go back to my other businesses, but as long as it stays what it is and like I feel good about it, we'll keep going.
All right, we have it for the moment, so we might as well
Yeah,
take advantage.
thank you.
All of you out there.
Means the world to me.
I don't have any more questions. What I do have is a game. This is called Barbecue-anon.
Okay.
All right, Austin.
That's a little ominous.
To allow both of us to share our trade secrets, we're going to hide our identities and modulate our voices, and then we're going to give both real and fake barbecue tips
Okay.
to keep people guessing out there.
All right, I'm
so
into it.
nobody knows which ones are real tips and which
Okay.
ones are fake.
Let's go.
Trim briskets and their fat in a wave form for even distribution when it renders.
A single marshmallow in your firebox cuts bitterness out of mesquite smoke.
Wrap your pork butt in newspaper halfway through the smoking process to force caramelization. Brining your chicken in pickle juice drastically improves the flavor.
Adding ground coffee or even instant espresso powder to your rub deepens the bark color and adds a subtle bitterness that balances fatty brisket.
Rest smoked pork belly on top of raw potatoes, which will draw out the majority of the saturated fats.
Soak salmon fillets in a brine of salt, brown sugar, apple cider, and an orange's zest for at least 24 hours before smoking it. Smoke whole dry rubbed chickens for 1 hour max before finishing them in the oven. The meat will be more tender while still maintaining flavor.
Resting your briskets at a consistent temperature for more than 10 hours increases tenderness.
Mist your coals with a combination of beer and beef tallow throughout the cook. It'll gunk up your spray bottle, but it's worth it.
Adding MSG to your barbecue rub increases the flavor infinitely.
Thank you so much for hosting us here.
Yeah, happy to be here, man. Thanks
I'm
for coming.
going to keep eating Yellow
I
House
appreciate
barbecue
that.
as long as I can.
I hope that's the way everybody feels.